Thanks for joining us for today's message. If you'd like to support this resource and others like it, you can do so by visiting our website, thechapel.cc, and select the giving option that works best for you. Enjoy the message.
Man, hey, can we welcome everyone watching online and the Hernando Correctional Facility this morning? Let's hear it, guys. Great to have you. Woo, man. I want you to notice my shirt, Body by Bacon, because real men can go to the gym and eat a pound of bacon a week. That's right. Listen, I want to spend a few minutes this morning. I just want to kind of talk about some things that, my kids are older now, so I'm noticing some things that I wish I would have done more of. I've done some things, and I know I'm going to talk about some things that for dads. I want to speak specifically to dads this morning, and it really can apply. We have a lot of single moms in our church. It's one of our strongest outreaches we do, not only in the community but within our church to our single moms. You can apply these leadership principles even if you are the head of your household or the person or a guardian. We have some families that look that way where there's a guardian there. But specifically pointed to dads, and you can use these principles, like I said, all around. But because my kids are older now, and I'm watching them become and be young adults, I'm watching them forge their way in culture and in society. I'm watching them engage in relationships, chase after their careers. I'm watching, and I wanted to just take a few moments this morning and talk about some things that I wish I was more intentional about. I did them as a dad, as the leader of my house, but as I wish I would have been more intentional. I did it in part, but now going back and having to look at the kids, I just want to share a couple of those things. And part of this comes from something that I realized in Scripture. That sometimes we can miss if we're not careful. And it's an incredible story. And when I first learned this many, many years ago, it actually is one of the things that caused me to really have a personal relationship with God. I mean, I grew up knowing God, but I didn't grow up experiencing God. God was always over there. But I never really believed or was never really taught that God wants to reside in my heart. That God wants to be God of everything in my life, not only things, but also my mind and my heart. And this is one of the things so I want to take you on a journey, and it's one of the scriptures that helped change me as a dad. There's this incredible story in Scripture, and I want to explain the story because it's so important to understanding what today, Father's Day, is all about. There's this man Moses, and we've seen the story of Moses, right? Parting of the Red Sea. It's incredible. It's unbelievable. Moses is talked to God in the Old Testament. He's talked to God through a burning bush. And some more of the skin of the story is that Moses was actually born Hebrew. He was born Jewish, but he grew up in Pharaoh's home as a privileged son, as an heir to the throne. And because he had something inside of him that made him Jewish, but although he grew up in Pharaoh's home, he watched one of the Jewish slaves being beaten by an Egyptian. Moses is talked to by a burning bush, God uses a burning bush to talk to Moses, and he's in a desert, but we forget the reason why he was in a desert. He was in a desert for 40 years because he saw one of his people, Jewish people, being beaten by an Egyptian, and he couldn't withstand it. He just couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand watching this to happen. He knew who he was inside, and he went after the Egyptian, and they got into an argument and then a fight, and then he killed the Egyptian. Well, now he's been exiled. Now he's on the run because Pharaoh and his armies seek to kill him, and he ends up in the desert for 40 years. He winds up working for a man named Jethro, who's to become his father-in-law. And he's in this desert tending sheep. And all of a sudden, God speaks to Moses through a bush. Moses, Moses, take off your sandals. You're on holy ground. And now the story's a little more familiar. It's like, oh yeah, it's heard a burning bush. And God tells Moses, listen, what we say in the chapel, if you haven't been here, you're watching online, we say it, here it is time. Just lean in right now. God says to Moses, I've got something I want you to lead. I've got something I want you to lead. I got something I want you to do, you specifically. I want you to go back to Egypt and free my Jewish people, free my people. You're the man, you're the guy. Moses then starts to go, no, I'm actually not the guy. I got a lot of issues. I got a lot of problems. Finally, Moses is like, all right, I'll do it. There's something Moses is supposed to do. God calls Moses to do something to lead these people. Part of what we miss sometimes is that Moses was supposed to teach them something very, very important. Because it's the Old Testament, there needed to be a sign. There needed to be something physical. We have some things like this in the New Testament, but in the Old Testament, the sign that caused the Jewish people, one of them, to be different than rest of culture, different than the Egyptians, different than all the other gods, they had to go through some ceremony that caused them, that made them, that described them, that distinguished them as following God in the Old Testament, Yahweh, and it was called circumcision. And Moses was supposed to go back and reinstate this thing, circumcision, while leading the people. Moses, I got something I want you to lead, and I want you to go do this and take them out of captivity. Go to Pharaoh, tell him to release my people. This is where we pick up the story. And it came to pass on the way, Moses now going back to Egypt. Okay, God, I'll do it. I'll free the people. And it came to pass on the way at the encampment, which means it wasn't like around the corner. It wasn't on Tarpon Avenue and 19 from here. It took a little while to get back to Egypt. It was far out. They stopped. Him and his family, Moses and his family. They stopped at this camp. And it says it came to pass on the way at the encampment that the Lord met him, Moses, and sought to kill him. What? What happened? It was not even a chapter earlier that God said, you're the man. You're it. It's you I want you to lead. I want you to lead the people out of captivity. Not even a chapter later, what happens is, hey, I don't like what you're doing. I want to kill you. That's bad. When God stops you and wants to kill you. What happened? What happened from the burning bush to on the way back to Egypt? And at the encampment that the Lord met him and sought to kill him. Then Zipporah, which is Moses' wife, then Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and cast it at Moses. Look, circumcision's not fun, okay? But you especially don't want your mom to do it, all right? I mean, just let's be clear. It's not, Mom, you don't, no. Circumcision back then wasn't like, I think, what is it now, like within the first 3 days or something, if you choose circumcision, they do that. No, these are young boys just before they've been bar mitzvahed, which means they're anywhere between 11 and 13. Yeah, all the guys are like, oh. Yeah, you don't want, Mom doesn't need to be, doing that. Okay, so watch. Then Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and cast it at Moses. So he, big H, let him, little h, go. So God let Moses go because he sought to kill him. Why? Because Moses was about to teach something to people that he didn't do in his own family. He's about to go instill this wonderful ritual that has deep meaning while he leads people out of captivity. While he leads them out of captivity, but he didn't do it in his own home. And for me, this helped change my life. It helped change my life on the way I lead my home. It's one of the reasons why that when we're around people who say one thing and do another, we call them hypocrites. Why we don't like that? It's because we're not wired by God to be that way. It's why people make our stomachs turn sometimes, or they kind of get under our skin when they expect you to do something you're not willing to do yourself. It feels shallow, feels weird, it's because that's not the way God. This is all the way back to the beginning. This is the very beginning of all the history we have. Is because it's not a value. It's not a characteristic of God to lead people to do something you don't do yourself. And it was this depth of leadership in my home as a dad, for my kids and then my wife, that began to change my life. And for a few moments this morning, based on this scripture and one other, I just want to talk about where I wish I would have been more intentional as a dad, and maybe it'll help some of us today that are maybe earlier in the journey, and then remind us that because of the resurrection of Jesus, and this is very important, guys, listen, because of the resurrection of Christ, there's always hope. Always. Your pastor, and some of you know me more than others in deeper ways, I'm the poster child for grace. The resurrection, among so many other things, always leaves, whether it's a smidge or a glimmer or a bucket, full of grace for our lives, that it's never too late to be the dad or the leader of our home God created us to be. There's this scripture that we recite sometimes in Christian circles because it sounds real sexy. It's really cool, but we don't ever read the second half of it because the second half isn't as sexy. Proverbs 29, and it says this: where there is no vision, the people are unrestrained. Where there isn't a picture to shoot for, where there is no vision, the people are unrestrained. They're unrestrained. In some translations, it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Word for word translation, it means unrestrained. Unrestrained, when you think of something, it has no boundaries. It has no guideposts. It's just going here and there from that game to this game to that soccer game to this baseball game to that thing to that football practice to over here, then to church, and then come back, and then we got school, and then we got over here, then we got a friend, and then we got a friend sleeping over, then we got It's unrestrained. I'm not describing today, I'm describing back then when this was written. And what I realized in that the expectation of God in our homes as dads or the leaders of our homes is that we do within our family that in which we want to lead. That's the Moses story. And based on this scripture, where there's not a picture to shoot for, where there's not a goal, where there's not a target, where there's not something where all our energies, thoughts, free time, money, resources, whatever it is, if there's not something we're shooting at or going towards, things just start to go in a lot of different directions. So knowing without vision, a picture, at the sake of possibly being too transparent, I just see scripture, we read scripture, it's biblical. I just believe everything should be talked about in church. Everything. It's not like God didn't know, and it's not like he hadn't written about it. Knowing that without a vision, without a target, people become unrestrained. No different without a family that has a target to shoot for. Here's the thing. I would have been more intentional about creating a picture of what I wanted my family to look like sooner. Now that my kids are older and I look at who they are, and man, we're blessed, and it's awesome. But I go, I wish I could have. Oh, I didn't teach that. Oh, I see where that, because they're older now, and it's a little. I wish I would have been more intentional about creating a picture, just of what I wanted my family. Leader of the home, men, you are the architect for how you want your family to look. Things like this. Here's the skin. Hey, look, I don't care how busy you get. I don't care how much school, how many credits in college. I don't care how much study. I don't care how much social. I don't care about any of that. On Sundays, after church, we come to this house and we eat dinner around the table. That's a picture. That's what we do. When I talk about picture, it's what do you want the family? We should be thinking now, what do we want our families to look like? Because apparently without a picture, without a vision, things can just go. And I wish I would have spent more time. We did it, but I wish I would have been more intentional about it. I wish I would have been more intentional about saying, no. What we do, no matter how busy, here's a good one. No matter how busy, no matter how crazy, no matter how much responsibility, for good stuff and bad stuff, no matter what, we wish one another a happy birthday. That's what we do. That's what our family does. See, it's about architecting a picture. It's about having a picture. I just wish I would have been more intentional about, you know what we do? We here's the skin. We celebrate here in this family. We celebrate wins. We celebrate losses. We just celebrate. I wish I would have been more intentional. We did it. We did some. Don't get me wrong. But I just wish, now that they're older, and I'm watching the way they maneuver in their careers and in society and in relationships, I just wish I would have been more intentional about creating that picture of what I wanted this family. Because what I'm noticing now is what they learn from me by watching me, not by what I say. Because you duplicate what you are, you don't duplicate what you say. They're going to carry to their families. So if I did it mediocre or hardly in mine, they're probably not really going to do it in theirs. And so I wish I would have been more intentional about, and based on that, here's the thing. I wish I would have been more intentional about focusing more on who they were instead of who they were not. I tell this story because it scarred me, okay? The story scarred me. My son played baseball, and if you know anything about baseball, my son threw righty and hit lefty. Guys, that's like another $1.5 million on a contract, okay? I'm just telling you right now. And he was fast, and he was wonderful. He was really athletic. And I'm staring at him, and I'm looking at him, and that's my retirement. That's my retirement. I'm like, this is, so you get him the glove and the ball and the coach, and you buy him lessons, and you get him, we're doing the whole thing. We're doing the whole thing, and I'm like, this is it. This is it, man. This is awesome. I'm going to retire. This is it. And I remember the day, and we were playing, and he came to me after a game. It was a doubleheader. He came in between games, and he said, Dad, I don't want to play baseball anymore. Just exacerbate. Right. And I was like, you are Satan. No, get out on the field. This too will pass. Go. Go. Just get out there. You're okay. I didn't hear you. What? Oh, the game's starting. And I was devastated because I realized I'd have to work another 15 years or whatever. But I was like beside myself. And it was at that, we joke, and it is funny, but trust me on this. It was one of those moments as a leader of the house and as a dad that I went, whoa, like what have I been saying to him without saying words, and in my words, and in my actions? I wish I would have been more intentional about spending time on he could play, but who are they? Because a lot of times who God created them to be very much differs from what we want them to be. And on the backside now, as they're adults, I go, man, I have no command of like you see these sentences and these slides, it's like 4 staff members to make sense of it. I have no command of the English language. I have no idea what a prepositional phrase is. I don't know what a run-on sentence is. I don't know grammar. I don't know when to use to. T-O, T-O-O, T-O-O, T-O-W. I don't know nothing. I know nothing. I was a horrible student. I mean, and my kids are like these savants. They're unbelievable. Listen, in school, it's crazy. It's crazy. I wish I would have, based on, see, because apparently without a picture, without a vision, without a picture, without some kind of architectural plans to shoot all of our energy and resources to and words to and our behaviors, apparently things just go, according to Scripture. I wish I would have spent more time going, God, you're so good at math. That's unbelievable. You know, a guy like you, a kid like you, a student like you, whatever. Man, Matt, you could be a CEO one day. You know, you could be the accountant of a Fortune 500 company. You could start your own business, and you could just talking more about who they were instead of who I wanted them to be. And a lot of times when you lean in, what I have found, listen, is when you concentrate on who they are, they automatically fall into who God created them to be. Because that's how God wired them. He wired me not to have a command of the English language, but for my son and daughter to be great at history and math. And what you're gifted in, often 90% of the time, what you're gifted and highly gifted in is what you're called to. And it was like, what? I mean, God wouldn't call me to be an English teacher when I can't even spell run-on sentence. And we forget that because I just wish I would have spent more time. I just wish I would have been more intentional about going, I can't believe you're so good at that. And put down my lens and filter of what I thought. And just took the time to go, what's uniquely gifted about my daughter? Not that other kids don't have that, but in this realm, sphere of family, what is she? Wow, look at that. Spent the intentional time to go, look at what who would have thought? He loves trigonometry. What is wrong with you, son? He loves trigonometry. And then spent the intentional time going, wow, really? Teach me how to long divide. I mean, something. Now on the backside, I go, and I use this scripture because I just love the way it says it. It says it the way, straight up, straight out, just like men like it. And the tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness, James 3, corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself. What happened, and the reason why I say more intentional is because what happened when I spoke about the things I didn't like, instead of speaking about the things I wanted to see. When I spoke more about what I didn't like, it created a level of discontent. It frustrated everybody in the family. It is one of the top 3 things that saved my marriage. So I'm going to save everybody in this room $10,000 worth of counseling. Talk about things with your husband or wife and your children. Talk about the things you want to see, not the things you don't want to see. Because it's a lot easier just to go, look at that. I can't believe you did. Are you kidding me? Did I raise you that way? Did I do that? It's so much easier to do that than it is to take the time to intentionally. What I found out is you cannot just drift into having a close family. It's the work. It is the equation. Listen, you just don't drift into having a close family. It's the summation of being deliberate about bringing everyone together and talking life-giving language. And it just takes a lot more effort to go, come on, look at this, look how great you are. I can't believe you're so good at that. Nobody else in the family is like that. Where did you get it? Got to be from God. You didn't get it from me. And I know you didn't get it from your mother. So anyway. What happens is it creates just this level of discontent. When there's so much discontent in the family that's created, because I'm on the backside with my kids, listen, when there's so much level of discontent that's created in the family, you don't want to be in that atmosphere. So you'll look for an atmosphere that's life-giving, sometimes even outside the family. And so I wish I would have been more intentional. I wish I would have been more intentional about focusing on who they were instead of who they were not. And we did some good stuff. But now seeing on the other side is like, I wish I could have spent more time. I would have been more intentional about creating quicker boundaries for my family. 4 areas I wrote down real quick. Words, media, behavior, and relationships. Boundaries. I like to call them guideposts sometimes. I mean, the whole story starts with them, right? There's 10 of them, 10 commandments. I wish I would have went, and here's an easy example, words. We don't say that here. We don't say that in this family. Like for me growing up, for whatever reason, if you said the word stupid to each other in my house, there were pots and pans flying out of every angle you could imagine. I don't know why. It was just one word that I can't even remember the last time I said stupid. In other words, I wish I would have been more intentional about creating boundaries, going, hey, we don't do that here. No, I know they do that. Or I know the Johnson family over there, and I know the Stevenson over there. I know the so-and-so family over there does it. No, we don't do that here. What did our parents sometimes say? I don't care about them. They're not my kid. and watching my kids now forge their own way in relationships and culture, I wish I would have been more intentional about going, no, we don't, you know what? We don't do that here. Behavior. We don't do that here. I know that they did this. I know that they said so-and-so. We don't say that here. Just creating the guideposts, the standard. The standard. I often look back and watch my kids now and go, you know what? We might have left the filter we might have left the net a little too wide in the media. I wish we could have went, we did. But it's just more intentional, because you don't drift into a close and healthy family. It's a level of intentionality that makes it happen. That we went, no. Okay, that's fine, but we don't watch that here. We don't listen to that stuff here. And we did, but now on the other side, peering into them growing up as a dad, as the leader of the home, as a dad, I wish I would have been more intentional about the words and the media, the relationships. There's a scripture that I want to make sure we understand as leaders of homes and as dads, is this, 1 Peter 2. As you come to him, as we come to Jesus, him being Jesus, the living stone, meaning he's not a dead God, he's actually alive. He's alive and working. As you and I come to him, the living stone, rejected by humans but chosen by God, meaning not necessarily rejected as in they don't believe in God, but they know he's there, but they actually don't believe that he has the best way for us to live. They choose what they want. That's what that scripture means. It's a living God, and as you and I come to him, he's the living stone because he's an alive God. And what happens is that the ones that people reject because they go, I don't know if I believe in that way. I don't know. That's a little old school. It says rejected by humans but chosen by God the Father and precious to him, precious to God the Father. You, church, you, dad, are also living stones. You're this living, breathing thing. You're this living stone. You're being built into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood. And leaders of homes, in Christian homes, and especially this weekend, dads, what priests used to do in the Old Testament is they used to take all of the prayers and all of the situations and all of the things that the people were going through, and they would bring them to God. That's what priests used to do. They would bring all of the things, all the anxiety, the fear, all the complications, all the weirdness. It would bring them. It would literally listen to all the people and go, okay, you guys wait here. And then they would go to God. Now in the New Testament, of course, we can all go to God ourselves because of the death and resurrection of Jesus. But when Peter says here, the priest, so my question is this. So often, I wish I would have been more intentional, here it is, about praying for my family instead of just trying to fix the problem myself. Because that's what we do sometimes as men. I got this, God. You're busy, the whole Middle East thing. I got it. I'll take care of it. I got it. And a lot of times like that, it's from a good heart that we do it. But it's from an ignorant mind. And I wish I would have been more intentional. Because I got leaders in my home. But I think if I would have been a little bit more intentional, maybe they'd pray more. Because I don't know how often I did it. I know I did it. But now watching them, I wish I would have been more intentional, going, hey, okay, I can't answer that right now, but I'm going to pray. And let's meet on Thursday and let's talk about it. because that's what Peter refers to as priest of our homes. Here's something, and then we'll wrap it up, because the brats outside are incredible. I'm just letting you know. I would have been more intentional about learning to relax sooner. For a good part, I'm a recovering workaholic, and sometimes I need to be reminded, because I love what I do here. There isn't a morning, there isn't a night, there isn't a day, there isn't a week or a month or a year that this church and you guys are not on my mind. And I didn't grow up a pastor. I didn't grow up in the church per se. I spent almost 24 years in the marketplace like you did, working. And a lot of times, because I didn't learn how to relax, my family got the leftovers. And leftovers aren't necessarily always good. Some are. And that's why I say I wish I would have been more intentional. I wish I would have been more intentional to realize, just relax with them. What's funny is if you talk to my kids now and you go, so like, tell me about your dad, because they'll travel and they'll go different places. And they now, because I've been a pastor for a little while now, they'll go, oh, your dad's Pastor Q. And they either raise their eyes like, or like, really? You know, so what's that yellow pill he takes? You know, whatever that is, you know, they'll say, so like what, when they talk about stuff, they never talk about the things that I bought them. They never talk about the houses we lived in or the cars I got for them. Some of them were crummy cars, I could see that, but the reality is they just were. They never talk about any of that. They talk about what we experienced together. The time that we rode a bike and I fell. The time we took him on vacation and got lost. The time that I showed up, I actually enrolled my daughter in a soccer team, and I forgot her age. Just so we're clear, okay? I am now your pastor, okay? Watch. I'm not kidding. You can ask my family. I actually forgot how old she was. I was like, I think she's 12. No, she's 11. No, she's 12. And I started and I couldn't remember her birthday. March 29th. Now I know it, trust me. But then, see, I'm not the spiritual pillar you see before you, okay? And I actually enrolled her in a team with girls that were almost 3 years older than her. You can ask her. And the whole time, she played the whole season. She played the whole season. And the trophy she got was like the most improved player. And I remember being on the sidelines just going, come on, run faster. And I was like, how come she's not fast? How come she's not these girls? And then, you know, we're kind of a shorter family, you know what I mean? So the height thing never really bothered me. It was like, wow, these girls are big. They were actually 3 years older than her. It was ridiculous. Yeah, that's why she's in therapy. But I mean, and so I wish I would have, because when you're tired, you're just like, yeah, soccer, come on, you know, and you're just like, yeah, join the team. I just wish I would have relaxed and enjoyed. They talk about the stuff we experienced together. They never talk about the stuff. There's a principle in Scripture that actually caused me to become a Christian. Because I get questions like that, and it revolves around Father's Day, actually. Because I am and still I'm a guy, you know, chase it down, drag it, kill it, drag it home by Friday. I just like that. I just enjoy it. I was in a relationship with a spiritual mentor of mine, great man. And man, I loved him so much. He's gone now. He's with God. And he kind of took me in and he said, listen, you got a severe problem. And he never mentioned all of the other issues I had. He mentioned this one. There were a list of them. But he just mentioned this one. And he said, you actually don't believe God is God. And growing up a good Catholic boy, I was like, what in the world? I got all offended and weird and, you know. And he said, let me tell you why. It's because you don't know how to rest. And people who live by faith understand rest. And I couldn't get that. I couldn't get it in my head. My dad's the hardest working man I know even to this day. And it was a scripture, and it was something he changed my life. And this is what I mean by I wish I would have been more intentional, relaxed sooner, because I screwed this one up. Exodus 31. Observe the Sabbath, because it is holy to you. Anyone who desecrates it is to be put to death. Oof, that's harsh. Those who do any work on that day must be cut off from their people. It's because when the Jewish people were coming into the promised land, they were developing this attitude that wasn't godly. They were developing this mindset that wasn't godly. And what this guy taught me was, if you don't learn how to rest in God, if you don't learn how to rest in God, the Sabbath, 6 one day, 6 work one day, 1 off, 6 one day, it's in Scripture, it's actually in the 10 Commandments. And if you don't learn that, you will actually begin to think that all the creativity, all the opportunity, all the money, all the stuff, all the possessions, all that you have is because of you and not because of God. That's why the mentality had to be put to death, because that type of toxic thinking gets into a community where you have nothing else, and all you have is what you see and what you accumulate and what you do, what you earn, paycheck, jet ski. It doesn't matter. Creativity, ideas, opportunity. And once you start down the slippery slope of thinking that something is yours, you begin to forget about God. Oh, I knew who he was, but the reason why I couldn't relax is because I didn't trust him and I didn't have the faith to. And it was 5 weeks that I actually literally 5 weeks, that I actually went, okay, Sundays I don't do anything. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to return an email. I'm not going to go to the office. I'm not going to go over here. I'm not going to go to this. I'm going to enjoy my family. Try to. It was hard. I try to enjoy some friends, have some friends over, eat, watch football, just enjoy what the Lord has allowed me to enjoy. And it was 5 weeks that something miraculous started to happen. That when I showed up to the office on Monday, I was smarter than everyone. I was more alert than everyone. I was more creative than everyone. I was more energized than anyone else. He created more opportunities for me on Mondays. He did it. Why? Because God, I learned that God can do more with 6 than I can do with 7. That's why they need to be cut off from the people. And as a person who stands on the other side now, with the kids older and forging their way and watching them, I wish I would have been more deliberate about relaxing sooner to enjoy. To enjoy. I want to read this scripture because I want this to be our hope. I want it to be our prayer for leaders of our homes as dads. There's a story as the Israelites and the Jewish people, because we started with Moses, they're coming into the promised land. And God doesn't want them to develop this mentality that it's all theirs. And now there's a new generation. All of the original people with the promise of a land of milk and honey and getting out of slavery, those people are older. And there's a new generation coming up. There's kids, there's grandkids, there's all this, there's families growing now. The tribe is growing, there's generations. And they're watching. They're watching people. The younger are getting older, and they're watching the parents, the aunts, the uncles, the grandparents, the church leaders. They're watching them offering sacrifices to God, because it's the Old Testament. Jesus in the New Testament, the ultimate sacrifice. They're watching in the Old Testament sacrificing a lamb to thank God for the provision. They're sacrificing animals to thank God, to show that you're in charge, we're not. Everything we have is yours. They're making all these sacrifices, and the younger generation that's grown up, they're kind of looking and going, so why are we doing all this? Why do we do all that? And there's this unbelievable scripture that helped change my life as a dad, as a leader, and leader of a home. When you see all these sacrifices, Exodus 13, when you see all these sacrifices in days to come, when your son, and when you see the word son here, it really means family. When your son asks you, what does this mean? All these sacrifices, all these things we're doing, what does this mean? You say to him, with a mighty hand the Lord brought us up out of Egypt and out of the land of slavery. This is why I sacrifice to the Lord the first male offspring of every womb and redeem each of my firstborn sons. Ready? Here's the skin. When you see daddy get up to pray, when you see daddy, because I wasn't always a pastor, when you see daddy go to church, even though he worked all day, worked all week, and goes to church, when you see daddy write the check to the church to support what God is doing through the church, when you see daddy standing, because I wasn't always a pastor, when you see him standing in the foyer handing out the weekly handout, the worship guide, the bulletin, when you see dad just go, I don't know, I need to pray, when you see dad get up and do and serve in the community, when you see dad do all these sacrifices, remember, this wasn't always Pastor Q. There was a day that I was a slave. There was a day that he redeemed me, that he forgave me, that he brought back the years I lost because I didn't know, that he put this family back together because I was ignorant. There was a day that he changed the way I think. Now he changed my heart, and now I think differently. Now I act differently. There was a day that daddy wasn't like this. And whether it's I write a check, or I go serve, or I mop the floor, or I bring somebody to church, or I go help the homeless, or I get on my knees to ask God first what he wants instead of what I want, it's because I don't ever want to think again that everything I have is because of me. That sacrifice reminds me that everything I am and everything I have and everything I will be because of the Lord. My prayer for you, Dad, is understand the power and level of your influence to your kids. And that there isn't anywhere that you can go that you can hide. There isn't anywhere that you can go that the God's loving hand cannot reach in and change a situation even this afternoon, that can change a relationship even this afternoon, that his grace and his power and his mercy as leaders of our home, we are never too far from the fingers of Christ to pick us up and begin a change. Because my hope for you as one of your pastors is that we get to say that to our kids. That I sacrifice everything from time to money to stuff as a sacrifice to remind me I'm not God. He is. Amen. I'm going to do something a little bit different. If you'll stand, I just want you guys to stand. I want to say a blessing over you, over everyone in this room, but especially our dads. Bow your heads. May the Alpha and the Omega, may the maker of all things, the creator of all things, may he bless you. May the God who is immeasurably able to do more than you could ever ask or imagine, may he bless you. May he watch over you. May his peace reign in your heart, the peace that can only come from the Prince of Peace. May he watch over you and guide you. May he make himself more known to you this week than ever before. May he bless the dads with power and strength to lead.